cava, for doing veins, is this big, thick one going back into the heart, goes back into your right atrium. Obviously, you guys remember the hard stuff. You can see where these two branches come in. These are your brachiocephalics branching into the superior. Goes back down. Your inferior vena cava is this large blue vein that eventually, if this stuff were cut out, see, this stuff goes back into the heart. It's going back into that right atrium as well. They're also known as pre-cava and post-cava. You can know that. Pulmonary trunk is going to be. Did we find it on your guys' cat? Do you remember that?
I think it was underneath.
It's kind of, yeah.
That way, yeah.
There we go. So this blue, you guys had, if you guys remember, you had to cut it to see the pulmonary trunk. This is a pulmonary trunk. Eventually leads into pulmonary arteries. Pulmonary arteries are going to be kind of where this, if you can kind of see where this stuff is, kind of coming from the heart, right there, coming into these lungs. This is the one difference where arteries and veins are different, because arteries are always red, they're always oxygenated blood. This is still an artery going back into the lungs, but it's deoxygenated, that's why it's blue. It's coming from your right ventricle into the lungs. And then eventually you'll have pulmonary veins going back into the heart, which I don't think you can really see, but it's following these pulmonary arteries. It's going to go back into that left atrium. Same thing, they're veins, but they are, most veins deliver deoxygenated. This is the one time when it's oxygenated blood coming back from the lungs into the heart. It's going to go through the ventricle, through that left ventricle up to your aorta, which it's kind of hard to see, but it's going to be right at the top here. You can kind of notice where it's going just from this this kind of branch coming off here from one of these arteries, but this is your aorta. It's going to be up here. Eventually it's going to go down. You're going to have your descending aorta, and then from the aorta for the cat, there's two branches off it. There's a right brachiocephalic, which is this thick one right here. This little branch right here. This is your right brachiocephalic portion. If you can see that, right brachiocephalic. These two branches coming off are going to be your common artery, your common carotid arteries, right here, common carotid, and then eventually this right brachiocephalic, after these have branched off, turns into your subclavian artery, which is right here. Once subclavian exits the rib cage, it becomes your axillary. Once it's entered the armpit area, goes down the arm, brachial, and then splits off to ulnar and radial. The left side, you do not have a brachiocephalic, you just have your subclavian. So this is your subclavian artery, it's your left subclavian. Same thing, once it exits the rib cage, exits the body cavity into the armpit, it becomes axillary and brachial. For your azygos veins, vein, azygos is going to be this, so it's been cut here, but this kind of little portion here eventually goes back posterior into the cat and then goes down. It just serves as a backup system. If for some reason your liver fails, there's still blood able to come from your lower extremities up into the superior vena cava, back into the heart. Your adrenolumbar veins, you can see this top one coming off here. This is going to be your adrenolumbar. Goes into that kind of adrenal gland.
That's your adrenal gland right there, right?
Yeah, this little thing right here. This branch here, this coming in, you can see it comes into your kidney. Anything kidney is renal.
Yep.
So this is your renal vein. What else do you guys want to go through? Your testicular or ovarian veins or gonadal veins. For your left side, your gonadal vein connects into this renal and then connects back into the inferior vena cava. For your right side, it just goes straight back into the inferior vena cava. So there is a difference between sides there.
Okay.
You can see this little one. This is going to be your gonadal vein.
Yep.
And your cat, I believe, has ovaries, right? It's a girl kitty. All right?
Yep.
Okay.
There's her ovary.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. So that goes in there. I don't know if you can see the one on this side. It's kind of hidden back in here, and then it'll kind of connect back in. But just know that the left side connects into that renal vein and back in. Right side just goes straight into the inferior vena cava. And for this, you can either say ovarian vein. If it's if it's a girl, you can say ovarian vein, or I just say gonadal for both. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
Okay.
Your iliolumbar vein is, I believe, on. Do you know if this one's on yours? Did she go over that with you for your iliolumbar? I believe this vein right here is going to be your iliolumbar. It's just before that
Oh, yeah.
split comes in.
Yeah.
Just think of ilio, kind of iliac crest. I think of in the pelvic region, and then lumbar spine.
Okay.
So that's just why it's that. But it's kind of this low portion. It's both on the right side. It's going to branch off. There's one over here too that connects in here. For your common iliac veins, there is a common iliac vein, and it's where this kind of these two branches connect into the inferior vena cava. Remember, there's common iliac veins, but there's not a common iliac artery. If you can see your internal iliac vein, is kind of this guy going off to the left right here, kind of shoots back posterior into the cat, and that on this left side it kind of goes in like that, shoots down into the cat. That's just blood returning from everything kind of in your pelvic region. This branch off right here coming in this way becomes your external iliac vein. Once that leaves the body cavity, that's when that turns into the femoral vein. And then your great saphenous is... Did you guys find the great saphenous on yours?
I don't think we did.
I think it's right. I'm wondering if it's right around here. Great saphenous vein is very, saphenous is kind of superficial. Saphenous superficial, think SS. It kind of comes back from this lower portion, kind of connects back into here. If you usually have any heart surgeries, they pull from that great saphenous vein.
Oh, okay.
So this will eventually lead into here. There's a split. I don't know if you guys dissected far enough to get to the split, but right around this knee space, there's a split. One turns into your popliteal vein, popliteal space, so that's why there's that split there. It's in this knee space. It's kind of back here. Popliteal, you're going to have another one that branches off kind of to the left. That's going to be anterior tibial vein, posterior tibial veins as well. I wouldn't worry too much about those, to be 100% honest with you. So now, hepatic portal system we went over with the other cat, so we're not going to go over that. Aorta, celiac trunk, you're not going to be able to see just because you're going to have to really cut out liver.
Yeah.
Celiac trunk is that first branch off just below, just inferior of the diaphragm that leads to the liver. That's celiac trunk. Now we're going to get into arteries.
Okay.
So now it's feeding blood into the liver. I wouldn't worry about it because, like I said, we have to literally cut out liver to find that. Hepatic artery, it just follows where that hepatic portal system is. We don't have it dyed for the same reason that we don't have the veins dyed on it. So I wouldn't worry about it. But you guys did get to see the superior mesenteric arteries and inferior mesenteric arteries. So say this little pink thing right here, this pink vessel right here that's following this inferior vena cava, this is your ascending aorta. So if this is all ascending aorta, this is where you want to follow stuff. This top one, this actually might be your, you actually might have been able to find your celiac trunk right here. I'm surprised about. So that actually might be your hepatic trunk, or it might be hepatic arteries right here. So just so you know, because this is all leading into these organs, you can see how it kind of leads in. This right here, for instance, that we're pulling up, eventually is going to lead. I don't know if you can see how it kind of goes under this large intestine and into here. This is your superior mesenteric artery. So this is leading to all your small intestine. So it kind of leads in here,
Yeah.
comes through here, and you can see that pink, that's all artery right there, going into there.
Yeah.
So that's all small intestine. If you were to keep following it down to find your inferior, this little guy right here, you can see how it kind of connects right there.
Yeah.
You can see how they kind of wiggles. That's large intestine. So that's your inferior mesenteric, also by proportion where it's at on the body, superior, inferior. Know this stuff, any vein or artery, if you have a question, pull the organ. If you see that
Okay.
it's moving, then you'll
Yeah.
know that it's going to be that. So that's how I say, you know, if it's renal, pull the kidneys, you'll see that it's moving there, so then you'll know it's a renal vein. So for arteries, renal arteries, testicular artery, or your gonadal arteries, that stuff, just follow your veins. So if you can see under here, there's kind of this pink right here. I don't know if you kind of see that pink.
Yeah.
That's artery. That's going to go to renal. The thing about the difference between veins and arteries on this one is, if I'm not correct, I'm pretty sure that your gonadal branches off from the renal. Oh, maybe not. So no. So your gonadal is just going to directly branch off from the ascending aorta, whereas the veins, you know, they kind of connected it on this left side, connected in this renal. So there's just going to be, you know, you're going to have your adrenal lumbar, which is going to branch off from the aorta. So if this is your adrenal gland, you'll see a little pink vein. It's very small, kind of under here. Maybe if you can get under there. Kind of this whole portion right here. This might be it too.
Okay.
If you see pink coming into it, that's going
Yeah.
to be your adrenal lumbar arteries going in. Like I said right here, if you follow this vein, just kind of under it, there's pink.
Yeah.
There's a pink artery.
Super hard to
That's going
see.
to go into renal artery. If you were to go down and find your ovaries for this cat, you would see a little pink kind of branching off it, and that's going to be. I think that might be renal.
It's so hard to see
I
this
know.
stuff.
It might have been cut somewhere for.
I think that was
Yeah.
it right there that you're
Yeah,
mingling.
yeah, it's kind of ovaries, so
Yeah.
I think I might have just cut something from
Yeah.
it. But that's going to be adrenal, or
Yeah.
not, excuse me, your gonadal arteries go into that. Let's see right there. But that's kind of hard to see.
Yeah, at least it'll be more distinct on the exam.
Yeah, the thing about it is usually if, for instance, like if you come back up here to like brachiocephalus or subclavian or something like that, they're right next to each other. So if you see one, you know, if you see this pink artery and you know, all right, well that's going to be, you know, for this instance, that's my brachial artery, and then I ask a question like this, oh, that's brachial vein. They're right next to each other
Yeah.
for arteries and veins. So that's the good thing about it. If you know one of them
You know the other.
and it's asking the other, then you know it's you pretty much know the other.
Okay.
As we go down, same thing for the iliolumbar arteries. This pink right here, because this was our iliolumbar veins. This pink right here is our iliolumbar arteries, right there. When you get into arteries, we don't, like I said, we don't have a common iliac artery. Humans have it, cats don't. Cats have this first branch off, this thick one, is going to be your external iliac artery. It's going to descend a little bit more. Your inferior vena cava is going to descend a little bit more. And then right here, you're going to get another branch.
Oh, yeah.
That's going to be your internal iliac artery. That's going to serve everything in your pelvic region right there. So I wouldn't worry about it after that. If we ask that, that's going to be, you notice that's that furthest branch down, so then you know that's internal iliac. If we follow this down, this external iliac, once it leaves the body cavity, it becomes femoral. And same, it doesn't have a great saphenous or anything like that. Eventually it just splits into your popliteal, your anterior, posterior, tibialis arteries, different stuff like that. Just know where there's a split right here. If we ask anything on anything in here where you see two splits, it's going to be automatically popliteal.
Popliteal.
Just automatically know that just because that's all we ask for. As far as coming back to the top of the body, same thing. I kind of went over arteries with this. You know, they only have one brachiocephalic. Just follow these veins. Follow arteries. They're going to follow each other. When you get up here, this is your common carotid. You're going to eventually have a split. You're going to have an external carotid artery. That's going to lead up to the brain, serve every functions in the brain. You're going to have an internal carotid. That's going to serve everything for face, different stuff like that. These two veins coming down, where you see these branching in here, they're not carotid veins, they're jugular veins.
Yeah.
And then where they lead into this subclavian, that's where they become brachiocephalic. Like I said, veins. The veins have right and left brachiocephalic, where arteries only have a right brachiocephalic, and the other is just a subclavian. So, what else do you guys have to go over? Kind of vertebral stuff, just kind of hard to see. This first, I don't know if you find it. So if we're following this subclavian right here, I think it's this one right here, this first branch kind of going posterior is going to be your vertebral arteries, going to vertebrae, different stuff like
Gotcha.
that. I don't know what else you guys have to do. Let's see. So this is all carotid right here.
Mm-hmm.
If we follow this split, so this is a rope.
What'd you say it was?
It's a little string. It's
Oh.
connecting something. So if we keep following that, I have to dissect it a little bit more.
Yeah.
Eventually up here is where the split is.
Yeah.
Going up. I wouldn't worry about it, to be 100% honest with you. Just if you kind of get the gist of everything else.
Yeah. That's so easy.